Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. This is Acquire and Operate. We're buying and building a portfolio of small, niche, enduring, dope, nasty, vertical B2B SaaS firms.
Hell yeah.
And we're about 2 years into the ride. We're still waiting on some news to become public, but we've got an exciting update for you. We're eagerly pursuing our second acquisition and eagerly kind of trying to level up everything under the sun while we do that. Today, we are very excited. It kind of dawned on me that I think private equity in general is probably pretty notably behind the large language model curve. And for us playing the acquire and operate game, the micro SaaS game, we need leverage any way we can get it. And man, generative models, predictive models are that. So we're going to start to share a little more of our secret sauce that way. And so today, the headline is Learning an Industry in 3X Prompts. And table of contents will okay, what does that mean? So we think about learning an industry in terms of the total addressable market, TAM, it's often referred to, and market composition. So we've got TAM and market composition. Then we've got market mechanics and buying behavior. And then we've got customer journey and operational overview. So we're of the position that if you can get your arms around those three things pretty quickly, you're going to have a damn good handle on the category. Why does this matter? For a lot of us, we're opportunistic, meaning we make the best of the deals that we find on marketplaces and otherwise, and we're kind of optimizing for sellers that have intent. And so that means their ducks are in a row, maybe, but that means at least that they've thought about selling their business, they've thought about valuation, they've put their stuff together so that people can look at the business. If this was a real estate analogy, the house is ready to show. They've cleaned up all the shit. They're clear on, what the house might be worth, etc. And so that means that there are pretty intense learning curves. I guess the opposite of this would be we're going to go after this very defined category. We're going to establish a universe of companies that fit our general profile, or we think based on some assumptions, and we're going to reach out to them and see if they're open to an exit. That's more kind of a mature process. You kind of have to earn your way up there. In the beginning, it's like, what businesses can I buy? Okay, cool. This thing is in this category. Don't know shit about this category. And so your job is to get schooled as quickly as humanly possible. And so we've really kind of tuned these prompts and tuned kind of like a best case output over the last year and a half, 2 years. And we're here to share that with you today.
I would also add to that, even if you do know something about the industry, it's not good to guess or go by the emotional feeling or the gut feeling. It's always good to insert some objectivity and just get driven by the data. So whatever you thought you knew about this industry for being here 10, 20, 30 years, kudos to you. Still, it's your job to do your research, submit the prompt. Something may have changed, or there might be a new trend that you find interesting and might be your leg up and advantage in acquiring this new portfolio. But never guess, never assume, use data.
And you also need to communicate a lot of that stuff to others. So you're going to have to document it somehow, some way, whether it's an investor, teammate, whatever. And I guess this is a big disclaimer, right? Like these models aren't perfect. So I would use this as like replace the go read 50-page industry reports. This is like 0 to 1, but this isn't going to get you all the way there. You need to kind of come in and treat it as like, this is probably 80% right. Actually, assume it's 60% right. And just
60 is a better guess.
Approach that way. All right. So TAM, and we won't get into TAM. I think that's generally a concept that most are familiar with. The market composition is interesting. So I'm going to share my screen, and the Substack has everything kind of like the prompts dropped in there. And then there's a screenshot of kind of like an example output table. The example we're using for today is dental practices. But in the spirit of keeping things easy breezy, this is all in a Notion thing, and it's published. So that link is in the Substack if you want to use it. And you probably don't even need to read the Substack. Just go. Well, you need to get to the Substack to get to the Notion thing, but I would start with the Notion thing. All right.
But we do encourage you to read the Substack. Some gold nuggets in there.
Yeah. All right. You see that? Okay.
Zoom in a little bit.
Zoom in a smidge.
Yeah.
You got it.
That looks good.
That's good. All right. So TAM and market composition. So what does TAM mean? Well, firstly, and there's different flavors, but we just want to understand what does this market look like? How big is it? And what is the composition? And so we'll talk about what we mean by composition. So when I'm just going to talk through the dimensions that are considered. So you've got logos, which is the total number of companies within an industry. And then you'll get into, and then I guess from there, you want to understand logos by market segmentation. So, okay, there are 1,000, this is not the case, but okay, there are 1,000 dental practices. And actually, let's just go into a table. Here we go. Yeah, let's look at this. And let me pull this in so that it fits. All right, so we're using dental practices here in our example, right? So there's an NAICS code, which is great in other industries. It sucks in SaaS because it's like software publishing or like online technology. Like there is no real like industry code that works for SaaS. Or is like, is this let's say it was a SaaS in the dental industry? Is it in the dental industry or is it a SaaS company? Like we've spoken a lot about how taxonomy gets, or like how taxonomy is like typically like how you organize species and animals. And in business, it's the same kind of scientific method, but it's weird because there's like a hierarchy implied, and it's like, is it more of a software company than a dental practice company? And so don't play that game. It's good for knowing industries that your software sells to or that caters to. So we're looking here at logos, market segmentation, revenue and profit, expected growth rate, and then some rationale around the expected growth. A sentence or two about the key drivers, and that'll kind of call out the risk factors too. And then we want to understand more about like our customer's customer. Mm-hmm. So in this case, how many patients does the dental practice category serve? Okay. What do those transaction sizes look like? Like how
what's their buying behavior?
Like how are they making money? Like how big are those tickets? And then how much do these businesses spend on software? So if you can figure out those things, I want to know how many logos there are. I want to know where those logos sit in terms of like small businesses, mid-sized businesses, big time enterprises. I want to know how much revenue this whole entire category produces. And I want to know an estimate of what the profit margin is. I want to understand what the category is expected to grow like over the next couple of years. Why is it going to grow like that? What are the things that are kind of happening that are driving that growth? How many customers, again, our customers does it serve? How much are they spending? And then overarchingly, like what's the software expenditure look like for this category? So that's like the tip of the spear. Yeah, you got something?
Yeah, I did have something to add. More so context behind the NICS classification codes, because it's still going to become important around the segmentation to identify where do these companies fit. So for some context, the government did not know how to identify software companies beyond the dot-com bubble boom, so they grouped them all into just 1 to 2 NICS codes. Then in the last 2 decades, they came out with the SIC codes, which are almost more specific. But if you really want to get down to your segmentation, if you can identify, LinkedIn surprisingly has it really down. If you can identify something close to that LinkedIn industry, then reverse engineer your way back to SIC and NICS, because LinkedIn actually figured out how to map those all across the data sets perfectly. So I would start by focusing on LinkedIn for the segmentation. But this is going to be important as part of the exercise. If NICS don't work, you have SIC, but LinkedIn is the one.
Beautiful. So there are about 200,000 dental practices. 75, and this follows like a typical distribution. So let's start at the smallest. 5% are big enterprises. So these are large dental service organizations, kind of like multi-unit franchises, and they offer totally comprehensive stuff. So from teeth cleaning all the way to full, cosmetic teeth repair. Below that, you have mid, which is about 20% of the market. And these are kind of regional dental groups. So think smaller scale dental service organizations, and they've got maybe some multi-location practices. And then they, again, kind of offer a more robust service offering or range of service offerings. And then 75% of the market is SMB. So small independent dentists that you go get, probably the people that we mostly see. It's like, yo, I got my family dentist. He cleans my teeth twice a year. And if I need a cavity, whatever. So it's usually like the smallest percentage is enterprises, somewhat larger percentage is mid, and then the majority is SMB. And why we care about this in our category is we're looking for markets that aren't dominated by a few enterprises, because it's very hard to sell into those enterprises. Revenue growth is tough. It's a slog. So you usually want to anchor around mid. And in our market, our model, we're getting back to SLG. I actually just did some posts about kind of some fine tuning to our strategy. 95% of our strategy in terms of the bullseye is staying the same, but we're going to get back to our roots and get back on the SLG horse. So you want to kind of anchor your pipeline around mid-market because those contract values are juicy, but the sales cycles aren't beefed out. Maybe you've got a user-led thing for SMB, And then you try to knock down, one enterprise for every 5 to 10 mid accounts, and just know that those enterprise deals are a slug. So that's what that looks like. The category does about 140 billion in revenue, significant. And 200,000, like we define niche vertical as sub 250K business entities in the United States. And our focus is purely USA for now. Look for that variable to change. We need to go international ASAP. There's a ton of stuff out there. But all to say, it's an 8 to 12% profit margin. So 140 billion, this is like right on the cusp of like, okay, there's probably some appeal to the VCs out there. There's probably some venture-backed players that's right on the cusp. I wouldn't say that this is like a super niche thing. It was just a good kind of case study for this post. Expected growth rate, 5 to 7%. As we've spoken about, we're not looking for that explosive category that's like, holy shit, anything that's growing faster than GDP is considered a growth category. So this is like right there. This is like stable, mature, kind of growing at a steady clip that's generally on pace with GDP. Beautiful. This is not, generative AI growing 200% year over year. And it's like, holy shit, we don't know what's going to happen here. Expected growth. It's expected to experience steady growth. And this is driven by increased awareness of oral health and aging population requiring more dental care and advancements in dental technology. Growth is also supported by the expansion of dental insurance coverage and an increasing demand for cosmetic dentistry. Makes sense across the board.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'll skip over the key drivers. It's a little bit redundant with the expected growth rationale. So number of customers served is about 200 million patients. A patient spends $100 to $1,500 per visit, depending on the service. It's either a routine checkup or maybe they're getting a cavity filled or whatever. And all of those businesses spend about 1 to 2 billion annually. So approximately 1 to 2% of revenue is going towards software spend. Okay. All right. So that's TAM and that's the market composition. So this is like bullseye on the growth profile, pushing up against something that we wouldn't define as niche vertical. Really good composition in terms of establishing a balanced pipeline and kind of growing revenue at a steady clip. And a good contract size for the customer's customer. So that's like, cool, spend about, on average $800 per visit. Okay. That's an interesting category. So let's move on to market mechanics and buying behavior. So this is where you start to figure out and this is kind of a summary, and then we get into way more detail below. And let's do the same. Let's look at this table in here. I'll push this so you can see it. All right. So the first thing is like business operating overview and customer lifecycle. And then we go into the SaaS stack, and it's kind of a conversation around what software tools do dental practices use? What are kind of the opportunities? If you had to put them on a tech maturity curve, where would you put them? Are they highly sophisticated? Are they mostly analog, et cetera? And then we talk about the category itself in terms of the customer's experience and the opportunities for dental practices out there to compete and to differentiate themselves. Because ideally, your SaaS is attached to the opportunity areas that are either helping them grow revenue, cut costs, or retain customers. So I'll just read these. So business operating overview. Dental practices provide a range of oral healthcare services, including routine checkups, cleanings, restorative procedures, orthodontics, and cosmetic dentistry. Practices can range from solo practitioners to large multi-location groups. The industry is highly regulated with strict compliance requirements related to patient care, data privacy, and billing practices. Obviously, adhering to regulations is another priority. Customer lifecycle. Dental practices typically develop long-term relationships with their patients with regular visits every 6 months to a year. The patient lifecycle includes preventative care, treatments, and ongoing monitoring, making patient retention critical. The decision to switch providers is often based on location, personal relationships, and satisfaction with care and service. The only time I switched dentists was when I moved to New York. And that dude was pretty generous with the laughing gas. He's like, you want some laughing gas? I was like, hell yeah, I don't want to feel you poking me, man. Let's do this.
Lucky you. I gotta
Yeah,
feel everything.
I went back to my dentist in Denver and I was like, where's the laughing gas? He's like, dude, we don't just hand that out. I was like, all right, well, this is going to suck. I was like, can I put my headphones in? So I don't have to
Mine
listen
gave me a look like, why are you asking? And who's done this before? I'm like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, I was like, no, okay. Anyway, get to the teeth cleaning. All right, so SaaS stack. So dental usage. Dental practices commonly use practice management software, PMS for short, electronic health records, EHRs, which is a huge category and applies to just about anything medical, billing and insurance management software, and patient communication tools. Some practices also utilize digital imaging and diagnostic tools integrated into their software systems. Sophistication. Medium to high. Many dental practices are adopting advanced technologies like cloud-based systems, AI-enhanced diagnostics, and telehealth capabilities. There are opportunities to further integrate and automate workflows, enhance patient communication, and improve data-driven decision making. All right, what's the consumer experience like, and what are the opportunities there? Patients expect a high level of convenience and service, including easy appointment scheduling, transparent billing, and clear communication. There's a
Yep.
growing demand for personalized care, digital engagement, and seamless interaction with their dental provider. Some of the opportunities: improving the patient experience by offering mobile-friendly services, streamlined communication channels, and enhanced data access, for instance, online portals for records and billing. Additionally, practices can benefit from tools that facilitate patient education, follow-up care, and engagement through digital platforms. Expanding services like virtual consultations and AI-driven care suggestions could further differentiate a practice in the market. Cool. So it's just about like every other category under the sun. And this is where you
Yep.
start to be like, all SaaS tastes like chicken. It's like, yeah, a lot of customer life cycles are the exact same. All right, so now we're going to basically kind of, so it's like, all right, we've got a sense for the size of the market. We've got a sense for the revenue productivity, how it's growing, how it's segmented. We've got a good feel for like how these businesses actually operate, the tools that they use, what consumers want, what the opportunities are. Shit. All right. Starting to feel like I've got a general, and obviously that we're cheating because all of us go to the dentist. So we've got firsthand experience, but
Yeah, and some of this experience does resonate because what's the one thing we always complain about? Yeah, I don't really have time for that. I got to schedule it and I got to figure out. No, if we can make it more convenient, have the communication be more clear. And the last time I went to a doctor, like they didn't give me any documents. It was just like, hey, we'll text you in 5 minutes when your visit wraps up. And you go to that link, it'll have everything you need to know. You don't even have to go sit with the doctor after. I was like, oh, that's great.
great. So
So,
just email me my x-rays. I don't give a shit, or just tell me what, what's
yeah.
going on. All right, cool. So, and the way that we frame this, and the prompts are there, but like, please create a detailed breakdown of the operations for businesses and the insert industry name structured around the customer journey. So we love the customer journey as a framework to understand how a business works. The output should be in a table format covering the following dimensions for each stage. So here we're looking at the stage in the customer journey. Hopefully everyone at this point is generally familiar with the stages of a customer journey, the department or kind of the functions that are involved, and some of the operations or the activities. And so to start, and this is very straightforward for any kind of service-based professional service, but we have awareness and lead generation, appointment scheduling, pre-visit engagement, patient check-in, clinical examination, treatment planning, treatment follow-up, payment and billing, post-treatment engagement, long-term relationship management, record keeping, and compliance. So we won't go through all of these, but and the marketing one is like, I don't know any dentists running ads or going hard at social, but so this one's like a little like, all right, whatever. But so awareness and lead generation, that's obviously a marketing function. Community outreach and partnerships, website and SEO optimization for attracting patients, etc. Then we get into appointment scheduling, and that's a front desk administrative function. And that involves handling inquiries via phone, email, and online booking, managing scheduling software to optimize appointment slots, verification of patient information, and insurance eligibility. That's a big one. Okay, cool. Then we've got the pre-visit engagement. This is patient services. They're going to send reminders about the appointment. They're going to send over forms for them to fill out online. I think the worst case is you get to the dentist and they hand you a stack of paper stuff to fill out. That's no fun. And then verifying and updating medical history and insurance coverage. So you start to see a lot of insurance eligibility, validation, coverage confirmation, starting to understand what that means in terms of pricing that the customer is going to, the consumer, the patient's going to pay out of the door. Then we get to patient check-in. That's a front desk admin function. So far we've got appointment scheduling that is touching the front desk admin, and patient check-in, which is touching front desk admin. Greeting patients and managing walk-in traffic, finalizing administrative paperwork, collection of copays, or initial payment collection. Then we're getting into clinical examination. So now clinical staff, dentists, hygienists, they'll do an initial assessment by dental hygienists, diagnostic imaging like x-rays, intraoral photos. Jesus, I don't know what those are. I've probably had them before, but examination.
Bite down.
Yeah, I hate those. It gets like, this hurts real bad. Are you almost done? Examination and diagnosis by the dentist, documentation of clinical findings in the employee health record or the EHR system. And then we'll get into treatment planning, and then we'll probably wrap there. But treatment planning is the dentist straight up, or a treatment coordinator. They're discussing the diagnosis of the examination and proposed treatment options with the patient, creating a treatment plan, including scheduling next steps, estimating costs, and discussing insurance coverage or payment options. And then along and along you go. So it's like, okay. And so another way to think about this too is a value chain analysis. Like that's the B school kind of convention where it's like, how does this, like, where is value created and how is it captured in this business model? The customer life cycle is a little bit more approachable, so we use it. But we could have said learn an industry in 4X, and you'd be like, do a value chain analysis, and it would look a lot like what we just talked through. But ideally, you take these 3X prompts, and here's the value chain one. I did it. It's in here. I didn't put in the Substack, but this is, yeah. And it was biased, and so it built it around a customer journey just because of the thread. But that's another way to think about it too. So ideally, 3X prompts, you've got about, I don't know, 1,000 words structured in 3 tables to read through. And you should have a damn good handle on a category. Like even from this, I'm kind of licking my chops on where the software opportunities are. So hopefully this jump starts everybody out there, and it's like, oh man, but I don't know anything about that category. It's like, pull out your phone, copy and paste this prompt into the ChatGPT thing, and socialize it with your team. And you've got a good kind of point of departure for thinking about the category, thinking about how it works, thinking about what the software opportunities are. Obviously, from here, you go into the software ecosystem that exists in the category. Who are the heavy hitters? Who are the big incumbents? Who are more of the point solutions? Is this more of are there players who have emerged as the platform? Like, is this already a category that the vertical SaaS, VSaaS peeps are going after super hard? Are there venture-backed players in the category? Okay, what does actual contract buying behavior look like? Like, who are the personas involved in purchasing decisions? What are their priorities when evaluating software? What's the software that they'll never leave? Like, what's the most entrenched kind of software? It's usually the employee health records. What are the systems of record in this, the SORs in this category? That's usually kind of the spinal cord. And that those are big incumbents that are probably horizontal. But anywho, obviously there's a shitload of work to do after this. But hopefully this gets you to a place where you're like, okay, I knew nothing, or I knew being a dental patient, and now I have a little bit of more of a sense. And then, another fun exercise is if you're getting serious, like schedule a dental appointment.
Yeah.
Go in.
Literally.
What did you use to book me? Cool. How are you validating my insurance coverage? How are you coming up with proposals? What did you use for my treatment plan? How can I access my x-rays online? No, I had to fill out this huge clunky paper thing before I got in here. Okay. What are you inputting that paper stuff into? Bring the front desk person a cup of coffee and be like, yo, can I take you to lunch after I just got you this cup of coffee? And I would love to just talk about your day. Like, what sucks the most? What's the coolest tool you use? Where do you think the category opportunities are? And you get out there. So that's a wrap. Anything to add, Kev? Sorry, I read so much shit today, but that was kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I think you're good. I was gonna say there is a benefit to structuring the prompts in the way that you did individually versus just asking for the full value chain analysis. Because from the technical perspective, we all know while ChatGPT is capable of a lot, it does have generation errors. This caps in how much text it can generate at one time, even on the premium version. Plus, it tends to start to summarize some high-level topics. So once you break the prompts down, you get the meat and potatoes of what you really need to analyze and understand. So there is value in just doing it as 3X prompts versus full value chain.
Totally. And it's funny. My dad used to give me advice about driving a 911 Porsche. And he was like, you don't hammer it, you squeeze it, meaning the throttle. So you don't just slam the throttle, right? You squeeze it and you let the gears work for you. And I think that's a really good analogy for large language models. Like, you just pull the thread and you squeeze and build, build and build. And so you start with that first prompt to kind of give it some more overarching context, and then you lean in and you lean in and you lean in, and so you don't hammer it with, here are the 3 prompts that I need. You squeeze it and you get there, because the quality of the outputs is so much better. That's great.
And it's here to learn with you. It's going to grow with you.
No doubt. All right, Kjael, for the love of the game, my G, we'll circle up next week, huh? Big week next week. Woo.
Big week next week. It makes you want to.
All right, we'll see what happens.
I'm so pumped, and we have to do a session just recapping the experience and just getting to LOI. Like, oh, dude.
Yeah. I read this one searcher. He did a tweet and he's like, I talked to 2,000 business owners, sent 98 LOIs, like 5 broke down, one, and it was his funnel basically. And so that made me feel better about myself. It's like, damn, but he's obviously looking traditional search model. Like, he's looking for one business to CEO and operate for the rest of his life. And he's probably going to move his family, and it's a service-based business, and he's buying from a baby boomer that's retiring. So it's kind of like a stereotypical thing. and they're known, like if they find a deal in 2 years, obviously there's so much surface area for us, and we're pretty ambitious, and we've been at this for a while. But it's a hustle. If it ain't for the faint of heart, nothing worthwhile worth doing is.
Absolutely. And that's why we're building a model that, hey, we don't have to sit here and pull the same lever every day. We're just going to build systems that learn off of each other like clusters, and then we can focus our strategic minds on the sub 5%.
Power law, baby. All right, dude. For the love of the game, laser beams. Wah, wah, wah.
One
Another
day. One day. I even did the new update today too. Still, one day, man. I'm just going to have to get an external camera.
All right, Kev. Peace, buddy.
Peace.